The crystalline walls of the diplomatic chamber reflected the tension crackling between two civilizations, as King Marcus Thorne of the Terran Federation stood face to face with Queen Seraphina Vex'thar of the Zypherian Empire. The Peace Summit, that was supposed to end 3 decades of bitter warfare, had dissolved into barely contained hostility within hours. "Your terms are unacceptable," Marcus declared, his ceremonial crown feeling heavier than his combat helmet ever had. The golden circlet, embedded with Earth's rarest gems, seemed to mock him, a warrior forced to play diplomat while his fleets burned in the outer systems. "The Zypherian Empire cannot expect humanity to surrender our mining rights in the Kepler sectors after we've bled for every asteroid. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." Queen Seraphina's ethereal beauty did nothing to soften her predatory smile. Her skin held an opalescent quality that shifted from pale blue to silver in the chamber's artificial light, while her eyes twin galaxies of swirling purple and gold fixed on him with calculating intelligence. The neural crown adorning her elongated skull pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that Marcus had learned indicated barely restrained fury. Surrender? Her voice carried harmonics that no human throat could produce, musical and deadly. "King Marcus, you speak as if humanity has any position from which to negotiate. Your precious fleets are scattered, your colonies are under siege, and your people cry out for peace while you play at being a war leader." The barbed words hit their mark. Marcus's jaw tightened as he fought the urge to reach for the plasma sword at his side, a weapon that had served him well in the trenches, before politicians decided he'd make a better figurehead than a general. "My people trust me to protect their interests." Something you'd understand if the Zypherian Empire believed in anything beyond expansion and domination. "Trust?" Seraphina laughed, the sound like crystalline bells shattering. "Your own war council plots against you, Marcus Thorne. Did you think our intelligence networks were deaf to the whispers in your court? Admiral Hayes grows tired of your diplomatic approach, while Commander Sterling questions your fitness to lead." The accusation stung because it held truth. Marcus had felt the shifting loyalties in his inner circle, the pointed looks and hushed conversations that ceased when he entered a room. Being crowned king during wartime had been a desperate move by the Federation Council, a popular war hero, to rally behind when morale crumbled. But 3 years of stalemate had soured even his most ardent supporters. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "At least my people chose their leader," Marcus shot back. "The Zypherian Empire's succession laws read like a recipe for producing tyrants." Seraphine's bioluminescent crown flared brighter, casting eerie shadows across her angular features. "Tyrants? You know nothing of our ways, human. I earned my throne through trials that would break your strongest warriors. Combat, strategy, diplomatic cunning. Every queen must prove herself worthy of leading our people. And how many died to put you on that throne? How many died to keep you on yours?" The question hung between them like a weapon. Marcus felt the weight of every casualty report, every family he'd had to console, every decision that had sent soldiers to their deaths. Through the chamber's viewports, he could see the hulks of destroyed ships from both fleets, testament to the war's grinding futility. "This is pointless," Marcus said finally, turning toward the exit. "We'll never find common ground while the chamber's lights died. Emergency illumination cast everything in hellish red as alarms shrieked through the station. Marcus's combat instincts kicked in instantly, his hand finding his weapon as he spun to locate threats. Across the room, Seraphina had moved with inhuman grace, her own crystalline blade materializing in her grip. "Treachery," she hissed, but her alien eyes weren't focused on him. They were scanning the chamber's entrances with professional paranoia. Not mine, Marcus replied grimly, reading tactical data from his wrist display. Station's been breached. Multiple contacts unknown. Configuration. A new voice echoed through the CUM system, speaking in neither human nor Zypherian language but somehow understandable to both. How fascinating. The apex predators of two civilizations, trapped together like specimens. The temperature in the chamber began dropping rapidly. Marcus's breath misted as frost formed on the crystalline walls, while Seraphine's skin shifted to deeper blue hues, apparently a natural response to cold. Korathian slavers, Seraphina identified, her musical voice tight with recognition. I've encountered their translation technology before. They must have been monitoring our summit. Slavers? Marcus moved closer to her, tactical considerations overriding their personal animosity. They're after prisoners? Worse, the Korathians are collectors. They capture leaders from various species, study them, then sell the information to the Kiku, highest bidders. Sometimes they trade the leaders themselves to enemies seeking revenge. The chamber door is sealed with a hiss of pressurizing gas. Through the viewports, Marcus could see strange vessels latching onto the diplomatic station, organic-looking ships that seemed to grow rather than having been built. So they grab both of us and auction us off to our respective enemies, Marcus summarized. Your people get me, mine get you, and everyone's happy except us. An elegant business model, Seraphina admitted, her tone grudgingly respectful even as she examined the sealed exits. Though they've made one crucial miscalculation, which is, her smile was sharp enough to cut diamond. They assume we're helpless without our fleets and armies. They don't realize that before I was a queen, I was an infiltrator for Zypherian Special Forces. And unless I'm mistaken about your reputation, King Marcus, you earned your crown through personal combat, not politics. Marcus felt a grim smile tugging at his own lips. 37 confirmed kills in single combat before they decided I'd be more useful giving speeches. 53, Seraphina countered. Though I stopped counting after my 100th confirmed infiltration mission. They looked at each other with new understanding. Whatever their political differences, they were both warriors who'd been forced into roles they'd never wanted. The environmental systems, Marcus noted, watching his breath cloud thicker. They're trying to weaken us before extraction. Standard Korathian procedure. Lower temperature, increase atmospheric pressure, introduce mild toxins to reduce cognitive function. Seraphine's skin had shifted to a deep sapphire color, but she seemed unbothered by the cold. We have perhaps 10 minutes before the effects become debilitating. Then we'd better work fast. Marcus examined the chamber's construction with a soldier's eye. These walls are reinforced, but the ventilation system has to connect to the main station somehow, agreed. But Marcus, Seraphina caught his arm as he moved toward a wall panel. Her touch was surprisingly warm despite her blue-tinted skin. Once we begin this, we're committed. If we're captured, your people will assume you collaborated with me. Mine will believe the same about my cooperation with you. You mean we'll both be branded as traitors? If we survive, yes. Our respective governments will need scapegoats for this diplomatic failure. Marcus looked into her alien eyes and saw something he hadn't expected: fear. Not of the Korathians or even of death, but of losing everything they'd worked to build for their people. Then we'd better make sure this is worth it, he said finally. Together, they attacked the wall panel. Seraphine's crystalline blade cut through the reinforced metal like tissue paper, while Marcus's plasma sword sealed the edges to prevent atmospheric breach. Their movements fell into a natural rhythm, her surgical precision complemented by his brute force approach. There, Seraphina pointed to a narrow conduit barely wide enough for a human to crawl through. Maintenance access to the stations. Central hub. You sure you can fit? Marcus asked, eyeing her tall, willowy frame. Zypherian anatomy is more flexible than it appears. The question is whether your human bulk can manage. Only one way to find out. They entered the conduit system with Seraphina taking point her alien senses better suited to navigating the maze of passages. Marcus followed, trying not to think about how they'd be trapped like rats if the Carathians decided to flood the system with gas. "Tell me about your war council," Seraphina said quietly as they crawled through the darkness. "The ones plotting against you. Why?" "Because if we survive this, we'll both meet allies. Your Admiral Hayes ambitious or practical?" Marcus considered the question. Both. He genuinely believes on leading humanity to destruction through diplomacy instead of decisive military action. And he's not entirely wrong, the honest assessment stung. No, but the alternative is escalating this war until both our civilizations collapse from exhaustion. Which brings us to Commander Sterling, political creature. She follows whatever wind seems strongest. Marcus paused as Seraphina held up a hand, listening to something his human ears couldn't detect. "Clear. Now your Sterling sounds like our Archon Veltar, always positioning himself to survive regime changes." "You have the same problems?" Seraphine's laugh was bitter. "The Zypherian court makes human politics look straightforward. We have 7 major houses, each with their own agendas, plus the military caste, the psionic orders, and the colonial governors. Half of them supported this peace summit, hoping I'd fail so they could install a more compliant ruler. They reached a junction where 4 passages met. Seraphina closed her eyes, her crown's bioluminescence pulsing in complex patterns. "This way, I can sense the station's central processor. Psychic abilities, basic telepathic sensitivity. All Zypherian nobility possess it to some degree. It's how we maintain cohesion across such vast distances." As they continued crawling, Marcus found himself reassessing everything he thought he knew about their enemies. "Can you read my thoughts?" "Only surface emotions and intentions. Human minds are differently structured. More compartmentalized than ours." She paused. "Though I can sense your frustration clearly enough. You hate being king almost as much as I hate being queen." "It shows that much?" "Warriors recognize each other, Marcus. We both belonged in the field, not on thrones." They emerged into a wider maintenance shaft that allowed them to stand. Through a viewing port, they could see Carathian soldiers moving. Through the station's corridors, tall, insectoid beings in adaptive armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal. "How many?" Marcus whispered. 12 visible. Likely twice that many in reserve." Seraphina studied their movements with professional interest. "They're efficient. This was planned well in advance. Someone leaked the summit location." "From which side?" It was the question neither wanted to ask. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the dropping temperature. "Could be either. Too many people knew about this meeting." "Or both sides," Seraphina suggested grimly. "Factions on each side might benefit from our mutual capture." The implications were staggering. If elements within both governments had collaborated to arrange their capture, it meant the peace process was doomed regardless of their personal fate. "The central hub," Seraphina pointed to a heavily armored chamber visible through the maintenance shaft. "If we can reach the station's main communication array, we might be able to contact our fleets, assuming they haven't been compromised." 2. Optimism, Marcus. It's all we have. They reached the hub's access point to find it heavily guarded. 6 Carathian soldiers stood watch while others worked to extract data from the station's central computer. Through their observation port, Marcus could see his own diplomatic files being copied alongside Seraphine's negotiation records. "They're not just here for us," he realized. "They want everything: troop movements, supply lines, strategic assessments. A complete intelligence package to sell to the highest bidders." Seraphine's crown pulsed with agitation. "This betrayal goes deeper than we thought. Can you take 3 of them? In close quarters, yes. But the moment combat begins, they'll alert the rest of their force." Then we do this fast and loud. Marcus checked his weapon's charge. I create a distraction. You disable their communications. Once we control the hub, we can call for extraction. And if our respective fleets refuse to cooperate? Marcus met her alien gaze steadily. Then we improvise. A man after my own heart, Seraphina said with genuine approval. Very well, King Marcus. Let's show these collectors why humanity and Zypherians are worth fearing. They positioned themselves at opposite ends of the hub's access points. Marcus felt a strange sense of camaraderie with the alien queen, a shared understanding between warriors who'd been thrust into roles they'd never wanted, but had learned to bear with dignity. On 3, he whispered into his unit. 1. Seraphine's voice came back, steady and determined. 2. Marcus burst through his access point with a primal war cry that would have made his ancestors proud. Plasma sword blazing as he cut through the nearest Korathian soldier. Across the chamber, Seraphina moved like liquid death, her crystalline blade finding gaps in enemy armor with surgical precision. The Korathians were skilled fighters, but they hadn't expected a coordinated assault from 2 apex predators of different species. Marcus's brutal, direct approach complemented Seraphine's elegant lethality perfectly. Where his strength overwhelmed their defenses, her speed exploited their weaknesses. Within moments, the hub was secure. Communications, Seraphina called out, her fingers dancing over alien control interfaces with surprising familiarity. I'm accessing the station's main array. Marcus covered the entrances while keeping one eye on her work. How do you know Korathian? Systems. Know your enemies. I've made it my business to understand every major threat to the Zypherian Empire. She paused, frowning at the display. Marcus, you need to see this. He moved to her side, reading over her shoulder as she displayed the intercepted communications between the Korathian ship and unknown contacts. Payment confirmed, Marcus read aloud. Targets acquired per specifications. Delivery to Rendezvous Point 7 in 43 hours. But look at the recipients. Seraphina highlighted another section of the transmission. Authorization codes from both the Terran Federation and the Zypherian Empire. Marcus felt his world shift beneath his feet. The authorization codes were genuine. He recognized the encryption signatures. Someone in my government arranged this, as did someone in mine. Seraphine's voice was hollow with betrayal. We're not just prisoners, Marcus. We're inconvenient obstacles that our own people decided to eliminate. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor outside. More Korathian soldiers, alerted by the combat. How long until extraction? Marcus asked, checking. His weapon's charge. Unknown. The beacon is active, but ... Seraphina trailed off as she accessed another data stream. Marcus, our fleets aren't coming. What? Both armadas are withdrawing from the neutral zone. Orders came through 20 minutes ago. Abandon the diplomatic station and return to home territories. The reality hit him like a physical blow. They'd been abandoned by their own people, left to be captured by alien slavers who would sell them to the highest bidders. Everything they'd worked for, everything they'd sacrificed, had been for nothing. So that's it? Marcus said grimly. We're on our own? Seraphine's alien features hardened with resolve. Not quite. I still have one asset our respective governments don't know about, which is... Her smile was predatory as her crown pulsed with new patterns. My personal ship. Stealth technology that makes it invisible to most sensors, and an AI pilot programmed to respond only to my biometric signature. You can call it here. Better. I can make it look like a Korathian vessel. If we can reach the station's docking bay, we can escape before anyone realizes what happened. Marcus felt hope kindle in his chest for the first time since the lights went out. And then what? We're both branded as traitors, remember? Then we give our people something more important to worry about than our supposed crimes. Seraphine's eyes gleamed with dangerous intelligence. The Carathians didn't just target us randomly, Marcus. This was a test run. They're planning something larger, a systematic capture of key leaders across multiple civilizations. How do you know? Because I recognize the tactical pattern. It's exactly what I would do if I wanted to destabilize an entire galactic sector. She turned to face him fully, her expression grave. Our capture was meant to be the first domino in a chain reaction that would plunge dozens of worlds into chaos. The approaching footsteps grew louder. Marcus counted at least 8 distinct sets of boots on metal decking. "The docking bay," he said decisively. "We make for your ship, escape, and then figure out how to warn our people about what's coming. Together? Together. At least until we can get back to our respective fleets and convince them that we're more valuable alive than as scapegoats." Seraphina extended her hand, not in the formal diplomatic gesture they'd exchanged earlier, but as one warrior to another. "Partners, then, at least temporarily." Marcus clasped her hand, surprised by the strength in her seemingly delicate fingers. "Partners. Now let's get out of here before our new friends decide to collect us the hard way." They moved through the station's corridors like ghosts, their earlier animosity replaced by the kind of battlefield cooperation that transcended species barriers. Marcus's human tactical training meshed surprisingly well with Seraphine's alien infiltration techniques, allowing them to avoid the increasingly thorough Carathian search parties. "There," Seraphina pointed to a sealed blast door marked with Zypherian script. "Docking Bay 7. My ship should be—" The door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the smoke stepped a figure that made both rulers freeze in recognition: Admiral Hayes of the Terran Federation, accompanied by Archon Vex'thar of the Zypherian court. "Your Majesty," Hayes said with mock formality, his sidearm trained on Marcus. "You've led us quite a chase." "How touching," Vex'thar added, his translator making his musical Zypherian speech understandable. "The king and queen, working together against their own people's interests." Marcus felt betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. "Hayes, you orchestrated this." "We both did," the admiral replied. "Amazing how much two civilizations can accomplish when their leaders aren't getting in the way with misguided peace initiatives." Seraphine's crown pulsed with fury, but her voice remained steady. "The Carathians were your allies all along." "Hired help," Vex'thar corrected, "though they served their purpose admirably. By the time news of your capture reaches our respective homeworlds, both our civilizations will be demanding vengeance. The war will escalate exactly as it should." "As it should?" Marcus stepped forward, his hand moving toward his weapon before Hayes's rifle tracked him. "Did you really think the Federation Council would allow you to make peace with our greatest enemies?" Hayes laughed bitterly. "Or that the Zypherian nobility would accept their queen's surrender of strategic territory for the sake of coexistence?" "This war is profitable, your majesties," Vex'thar added silkily. "Military contracts, territorial expansion, technological advancement driven by necessity peace would ruin everything." Marcus looked at Seraphina and saw his own horror reflected in her alien features. They'd been pawns in a game larger than either had imagined, manipulated by the very people they'd trusted to support their leadership. "The Carathians," Seraphina said quietly. "They're not just planning to destabilize the sector. They're working with factions from both our governments." "Very good," Hayes nodded approvingly, "though it won't matter. By tomorrow you'll both be in cells on opposite sides of the galaxy, living symbols of treachery and failed diplomacy. Our people will figure out the truth eventually," Marcus said defiantly. "Will they?" Two leaders who mysteriously disappeared together during peace negotiations, later found in each other's custody? Vex'thar's mechanical laugh was chilling. The narrative writes itself. The blast door behind them sealed with a hiss of pressurizing atmosphere. More Carathian soldiers filed into the chamber, weapons trained on the two rulers. The trap was complete. But as Marcus met Seraphine's eyes, he saw something that made his warrior's heart sing not defeat, but calculation. Her crown's bioluminescent patterns had shifted to configurations he hadn't seen before, subtle communications in a language older than human civilization. "Admiral Hayes," Seraphina said suddenly, her musical voice carrying new harmonics. "Before you proceed with this betrayal, there's something you should know about Zypherian biology." "What?" Hayes kept his weapon trained on Marcus, but turned slightly toward the alien queen. "We don't just have telepathic sensitivity," she continued, her crown now pulsing in rapid, complex patterns. "We can also project our thoughts. And I've been broadcasting our entire conversation." Hayes frowned. "Broadcasting to whom?" "To every Zypherian with psionic training within 100 light years." Her smile was predatory. "Including the crew of my personal ship, which has been recording everything for the past 20 minutes. The chamber suddenly filled with the sound of weapons powering up. Through the viewports, sleek Zypherian fighters emerged from stealth, their hulls shimmering as they decloaked around the station. At the same time, familiar human battlecruisers dropped out of hyperspace, their gun ports open and targeting. "Systems active." "You see," Marcus said, understanding flooding through him as he recognized the Federation ships. Admiral Hayes wasn't the only one with contingency plans. "My personal guard never stopped monitoring this station, even after the official fleet withdrawal." "Impossible," Vex'thar hissed. "Both fleets received direct orders from compromised command structures," Seraphina finished. "But loyal soldiers tend to prioritize the safety of their leaders over political maneuvering." The station shuddered as docking clamps engaged. Through the blast doors came the sound of cutting torches and breaching charges. Hayes and Vex'thar found themselves surrounded as their Korathian allies suddenly discovered that their supposed easy capture had become a very dangerous trap. "This isn't over," Hazes snarled, but his defiance was undermined by the tremor in his voice. "No," Marcus agreed, standing beside Seraphina as rescue teams burst through the compromised doors. "It's just beginning, because now we know exactly who our real enemies are." As loyal soldiers from both species secured the chamber, Marcus and Seraphina exchanged a look of understanding. They'd entered this summit as enemies, been betrayed by their own people, and emerged as something neither had expected: allies, with a shared purpose that transcended the artificial boundaries of their respective civilizations. The trading of places had begun, but not in the way anyone had planned. The interrogation chambers aboard the joint task force flagship hummed with tension as Admiral Hayes and Archon Vex'thar faced their former leaders across a table of brushed steel. Marcus had traded his ceremonial crown for combat fatigues, while Seraphina wore the sleek tactical gear of Zypherian Special Forces. Both rulers, finely dressed for the war they'd discovered was being fought in shadows. 17 coordination points, Seraphina said, her crown's bioluminescence casting eerie patterns on the chamber walls as she processed the psychic impressions gleaned from Vex'thar's mind. The conspiracy involves 17 different species across 4 galactic sectors. Marcus studied the holographic display showing intercepted Korathian communications. "It's not just about our war anymore. They're systematically destabilizing every major civilization within 500 light years." Hayes shifted uncomfortably in his restraints, his career military bearing finally cracking under the weight of evidence. "You don't understand the bigger picture. The Federation Council." "The Federation Council," Marcus interrupted, his voice carrying the authority that had rallied armies, "authorized the deployment of biological weapons against civilian populations." "I've seen the purchase orders, Hayes. Korathian bioweapons, paid for with Federation credits." "And the Zypherian High Command," Seraphina added, her musical voice now edged with steel, "has been selling strategic intelligence to the Dreknari Syndicate. The same syndicate that's been raiding our outer colonies for the past 6 months." Vex'thar's Translator crackled as he spoke in rapid Zypherian. The Queen's telepathic abilities are crude compared to true psionic interrogation. She cannot. I can read enough. Seraphina cut him off, her crown pulsing brighter. You've been in contact with Korathian leadership for over 2 years. This failed peace summit was planned from the beginning. Marcus leaned forward, his combat experience allowing him to read the micro-expressions that revealed truth. They never intended for us to reach a peace agreement. The whole summit was theater, designed to position us for capture. But why? The question came from Captain Sarah Chun, Marcus's most trusted military advisor and one of the few Federation officers who'd maintained loyalty throughout the conspiracy. What's the endgame? Chaos, Seraphina answered, accessing memories from her telepathic probe of Vex'thar. The Korathians don't want to conquer the galaxy, they want to manage it. Create perpetual conflict between species, then profit from selling weapons, intelligence, and services to all sides. A galaxy-wide protection racket, Marcus realized. They destabilize regions, then offer their services as neutral mediators, while secretly fueling the conflicts. The Chamber's communications array chimed with an incoming priority message. Commander Zara Telvin, Seraphine's equivalent to Captain Chen, appeared on the holographic display. Her azure skin bore the ritual scars of Zypherian naval service, and her expression was grim. "Your Majesty," she began, speaking an accented standard rather than her native tongue for Marcus's benefit. "We've intercepted communications from the Korathian fleet. They're not retreating, they're regrouping. Massive force concentration in the Veil Nebula, approximately 48 hours from our position." "How massive?" Marcus asked, his tactical mind immediately shifting into combat mode. Preliminary scans suggest at least 300 vessels, including several of their organic dreadnoughts. Telvin's image flickered as the transmission struggled through the nebula's interference. But that's not the worst part. They've got allies ships from at least 6 different species, including vessels we've identified as belonging to both Federation and Zypherian separatist factions. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. Our own people are actively collaborating with them. It appears so. Intelligence suggests they're planning a coordinated strike against both Earth and Zyphros Prime simultaneously. Make it look like each civilization launched a surprise attack against the other. The final escalation, Seraphina breathed, her telepathic senses picking up the emotional resonance of such a catastrophe. They trigger total war between our species, then step in as the power brokers in the aftermath. Hayes finally spoke, his voice hollow with the realization of what he'd helped set in motion. The Federation Council. They said it would be a limited engagement. Controlled escalation to strengthen our negotiating position. "You naive fool," Vex'thar hissed through his translator. "Did you truly believe the Korathians would honor any agreement with lesser species? Lesser species?" Marcus stood, his warrior's rage finally breaking through diplomatic restraint. "You helped orchestrate the potential genocide of billions of people, and you're worried about species hierarchy." "Enough," Seraphina commanded, her psychic abilities unconsciously projecting authority that made even Marcus pause. "Recriminations won't save our civilizations. We need solutions." Captain Chun stepped forward, her tactical display showing fleet positions across the sector. "Your Majesty, even if we combine our forces, we're looking at maybe 150 ships against their 300. The math doesn't work." "The math assumes conventional warfare," Marcus said thoughtfully, his strategic mind already working through possibilities. "But the Korathians have a weakness. Their command structure is entirely organic. Biological networks that require specific pheromone triggers to coordinate effectively." Seraphine's eyes widened with understanding. "And Zypherian psionic warfare techniques can disrupt biological neural networks. But I'd need to get very close to their command ships. A suicide mission," Commander Telvin protested from the display. Your Majesty, the risk is acceptable, Seraphina finished. But I won't be going alone. Marcus felt the weight of inevitability settling on his shoulders. You're talking about both of us infiltrating their fleet structure. Two heads of state conducting a covert operation, while our civilizations stand on the brink of mutual annihilation. I'm talking about two warriors doing what politicians couldn't, saving our people through direct action rather than negotiation. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. It was madness abandoning their fleets to undertake a mission that would likely kill them both. But as Marcus studied the tactical displays, he began to see the elegant simplicity of the plan. Your stealth ship, he said to Seraphina, the one that can mimic Kurathian signatures. How close can it get to their command structure? Close enough for me to establish psionic contact with their biological networks. But disrupting them will require sustained effort. I'll be vulnerable during the process, which is where I come in. Marcus's smile was sharp with anticipation. Close protection, while you work your telepathic magic. Hayes laughed bitterly from his restraints. 2 people against 300 ships, you're both insane. No, Marcus replied, his voice carrying the certainty of a soldier who'd found his purpose. We're desperate. And desperate people accomplish impossible things. Seraphina moved to his side, her alien grace complementing his human determination. Through their shared experience in the diplomatic station, they'd developed an intuitive understanding of each other's capabilities. There's more. The Kurathian fleet structure relies on centralized coordination. If we can disable their command nodes, their allied ships will lose tactical cohesion, creating opportunities for our fleets to exploit, Chun realized. A force multiplier that could even the odds. But the political ramifications, Telvin warned. If both leaders disappear on a covert mission, it will look like another betrayal. Our respective governments might proceed with mutual annihilation just to maintain face. Marcus exchanged a look with Seraphina, seeing his own thoughts reflected. In her alien features, they'd already been branded as traitors by elements within their own governments. Perhaps it was time to embrace that role completely. Then we make sure they understand exactly why we're doing this, he said finally. A joint broadcast to both civilizations, explaining the conspiracy and our response. A declaration of independence from the political structures that created this mess, Seraphina added. We're not abandoning our people, we're saving them from leaders who would sacrifice them for personal gain. The weight of such a decision pressed down on everyone in the chamber. They were talking about 2 monarchs, essentially abdicating their thrones to undertake a military mission that might save or doom their civilizations. The precedent, Chun said quietly. If this works, it changes everything. Military action superseding political authority. Heads of state operating as special forces rather than symbols. If it doesn't work, Telvin added grimly, our species will remember us as the leaders who abandoned their posts when duty demanded presence on the throne. History will judge us by results, not intentions, Marcus replied. And right now, the only result that matters is preventing galactic war. Seraphine's crown pulsed with rapid patterns as she accessed secure communications channels. I'm sending encrypted messages to my most trusted naval commanders. If we don't return within 72 hours, they're to consider Crown Prince Valdris as regent and coordinate with Federation forces to minimize casualties. Similar arrangements for the Federation, Marcus confirmed, his own communications protocols activating. Admiral Morrison has sealed orders to work with Zypherian forces if this mission fails. Hayes stared at them both with something approaching awe. You're actually going to do this? Abandon everything you've built to undertake a mission that will probably kill you both. We're going to do what leaders should do, Seraphina corrected. Put the welfare of our people above personal ambition or political convenience. The chamber's tactical displays shifted to show Seraphine's stealth ship, being prepared for immediate departure. The vessel was a masterpiece of Zypherian biotechnology, a living ship that could adapt its shape and energy signature to match virtually any known spacecraft design. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked, studying the mission parameters. 18 hours until the Corathian fleet reaches optimal strike position, Chun reported. Transit time to the Veil Nebula is 12 hours, which gives us a 6-hour window for infiltration and sabotage. "Assuming everything goes perfectly," Telvin added skeptically. "When does anything go perfectly in war?" Marcus grinned, feeling the familiar rush of pre-combat adrenaline. "We plan for complications and adapt when they occur." As they prepared to leave, Vex'thar spoke for the final time. "You're both fools if you think this gesture will change anything. The power structures that created this situation will rebuild themselves around new leaders. The cycle will continue." Seraphina paused at the chamber's exit, her storm-gray eyes fixing on the defeated Archon. "Perhaps, but at least we'll have given our people a chance to choose a different path." "And sometimes," Marcus added, "that's all leaders can do, create opportunities for their people to be better than their circumstances." The stealth ship's interior was a marvel of organic technology that made Marcus's skin crawl, even as he appreciated its efficiency. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that responded to Seraphine's touch, while the ship's eye spoke in harmonious tones that somehow conveyed vast intelligence without words. "She's beautiful," Seraphina said, running her hands along what Marcus assumed was a control console, a living entity bred for exploration and combat. Her name translates roughly to harmony and shadow. She? All Zypherian ships are female. They're grown from modified genetic templates that include aspects of our own biology. Seraphine's crown interfaced directly with the ship's systems, causing new patterns to flow across the walls. She recognizes you as an ally now. Your biometric signature has been integrated into her protective protocols. Marcus felt oddly honored by the acceptance. "How fast can she get us to the nebula?" "Faster than any mechanical ship could manage. Biological drives don't follow conventional physics. They bend space rather than moving through it." The ship shuddered gently as they departed, the sensation more like a living creature stretching than mechanical acceleration. Through the organic viewport, Marcus watched the combined human Zypherian fleet fall away behind them. 2 species worth of military might that might not be enough to prevent disaster. "Second thoughts?" Seraphina asked, settling into what appeared to be a pilot's chair that molded itself to her body. "Constantly, but doubt is a luxury we can't afford." Marcus found his own seat, adapting to his human physiology with disturbing efficiency. "Tell me about the psionic disruption process. What exactly will you need to do?" Corathian command networks operate on pheromone-based communication, enhanced by biological neural pathways. I'll need to establish telepathic contact with their central coordination organism, essentially their fleet's brain, and introduce disruptive thought patterns. Sounds painful, potentially fatal. Corathian minds are structured very differently from Zypherian consciousness. Making contact could cause permanent psychological damage or complete mental breakdown. Marcus absorbed this information with the stoicism of a soldier who'd long ago accepted that some missions required ultimate sacrifice. "And the process will leave you completely vulnerable. For approximately 30 minutes, yes. I'll be in deep telepathic trance with no awareness of external threats. Then I'll make sure nothing threatens you during those 30 minutes. Seraphine's smile was radiant despite the gravity of their situation. "You know, Marcus, when this started, I thought humans were brutish creatures who solved problems through violence alone. And now? Now I realize you're brutish creatures who solve problems through violence applied with precision and loyalty." Her laugh was musical. It's surprisingly appealing. "Careful, Your Majesty. People might think we're developing a friendship." "Heaven forbid. Though I admit, Facing potential death alongside someone tends to clarify one's priorities. They settled into comfortable silence as the ship carried them through hyperspace toward their destination. Marcus found himself studying Seraphine's alien features with new appreciation, not as an enemy leader to be outmaneuvered, but as a fellow warrior preparing for battle. "Question," he said eventually. "Why didn't your people try to breed super soldiers? Like the Carathians, you have the biotechnology." "Because we learned from history. The Zypherian Empire once attempted to create perfect warriors through genetic manipulation. The result was a civil war that nearly destroyed our civilization." Her expression grew distant with ancestral memory. "Power without wisdom, strength without compassion, it creates monsters, not protectors. Whereas humans just stumble into creating monsters through good intentions and poor planning. Don't sell your species short, Marcus. Humanity's greatest strength is adaptability. You face impossible situations and find ways to survive them that no one else would consider. Like two heads of state infiltrating an enemy fleet? Exactly like that." The ship's AI announced their approach to the Veil Nebula through harmonious tones that needed no translation. Marcus felt his pulse quicken as they dropped out of hyperspace into a region of space that defied easy description. Clouds of luminescent gas twisted around massive formations of organic ships that looked more grown than built. 300 ships, Marcus breathed, studying the tactical display. "Your intelligence was accurate." "Too accurate," Seraphina frowned, her psionic senses detecting something that made her crown pulse with agitation. "Marcus, something's wrong. The fleet composition, they're not preparing for a strike mission." "What do you mean?" "Look at the formation. Those aren't assault ships, they're transport vessels. Colony ships. And the energy signatures." Her face went pale with realization. "They're not planning to attack our home worlds. They're planning to abandon this galaxy entirely." Marcus felt the bottom drop out of his understanding. Abandon it? Why would they? The implications hit him like a physical blow. They're not trying to manage a galactic war. They're preparing to flee from something. But what could frighten the Carathians enough to make them run? Seraphine's question hung in the organic air of the ship, like a death sentence. Their answer came in the form of new contacts appearing on the edge of their sensors, massive signatures that dwarfed even the largest Carathian vessels. Ships that bore no resemblance to any known technology, their energy patterns unlike anything in the galaxy's databases. "First contact," Marcus whispered, "and not the friendly kind." Seraphine's crown blazed with psychic activity as she tried to probe the newcomer's intentions. What she found made her cry out in pain and terror. "They're not from this galaxy," she gasped, her mental defenses struggling against alien thoughts that hurt to contemplate. "They're refugees running from something that devoured their entire civilization. And they see our galaxy as their new home. Whether we want them here or not," Marcus finished grimly, as if responding to their discovery. The alien ships began moving toward the Carathian fleet with predatory grace. The war between humanity and the Zypherian Empire suddenly seemed like a minor dispute between neighbors compared to the existential threat bearing down on them all. "Change of mission," Marcus said decisively. "We're not here to sabotage the Carathians anymore. We're here to warn them. And hope they'll listen before it's too late," Seraphina agreed, her fingers already working to change their ship's approach vector toward the heart of the enemy fleet. Neither of them spoke the obvious truth, that their original mission had just become the least of their problems. 6 months after the Battle of the Veil Nebula, Marcus stood in the observation deck of the hybrid command station orbiting the galactic core, watching construction crews from 17 different species work together on humanity's most ambitious project. The weapon the builders had left wasn't a device, it was a blueprint for unity itself. The Carathian biotechnology is integrating perfectly with Zypherian psionic networks, Seraphina reported, her crown now permanently interfaced with the station's systems. She'd changed in the months since their desperate alliance, her role evolving from queen to something entirely new, a living bridge between species that had never imagined cooperation. And human engineering is providing the structural framework to hold it all together, Marcus added, reviewing progress reports from the construction teams. Though I still can't believe we're building a consciousness transfer network that spans the entire galaxy. The Devourer threat had changed everything. The extragalactic invaders weren't just destroyers, they were a hive mind that consumed the collective knowledge and experience of entire civilizations. The Builder's weapon was designed to counter that by creating an even larger collective consciousness, one that encompassed every sentient species in the galaxy. The final phase begins tomorrow, announced Hive Queen Zareth, her consciousness speaking through biomechanical speakers installed throughout the station. She'd undergone radical transformation as well, splitting her massive form into multiple smaller avatars that could interface directly with other species' technology. All major population centers are now connected to the network. Marcus felt a familiar chill of uncertainty. And we're sure this will work? Creating a galaxy-wide consciousness that can resist the Devourer's assimilation? As sure as we can. Be about something that's never been attempted, Seraphina replied, her hand finding his as they watched the construction crews complete another section of the massive array. But the alternative is watching every civilization in the galaxy be consumed one by one. Through the observation deck's viewports, they could see the approaching Devourer fleet, a wall of darkness that had already consumed 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. The united fleets of the Galactic Alliance had bought them precious time, but conventional weapons were useless against beings that fed on matter and energy alike. Personal question, Marcus said quietly, his eyes still fixed on the approaching doom. When this network activates, when every consciousness in the galaxy links together, who are we going to be? Seraphine's grip tightened on his hand. I don't know. The individual personalities that started this journey might not survive the merger. But maybe that's the point, becoming something greater than the sum of our parts. The ultimate trading of places, he mused. From kings and queens to components in a galactic mind. From enemies to lovers to something beyond both, she agreed, her alien features softened by an emotion that transcended species barriers. They'd grown close during the construction process, their partnership evolving naturally from necessity to deep affection. The stress of building humanity's last hope had forged bonds that made their previous political animosity seem like ancient history. Incoming transmission from the Devourer Vanguard, Zareth announced, her tone carrying undercurrents of ancient fear. They're attempting to communicate. The main display flickered to life, showing a swirling mass of darkness that hurt to look at directly. When it spoke, the words bypassed their ears entirely, appearing directly in their minds with the weight of absolute certainty. You resist the inevitable. Your galaxy will nourish us as 17 others have. Submit, and your absorption will be swift. Counter-proposal, Marcus replied, his warrior's instincts refusing to show weakness even in the face of cosmic horror. Leave our galaxy, and we won't activate a weapon that could destroy you all. Impossible. We have consumed technologies beyond your comprehension. No weapon exists that can threaten us. Want to bet? Seraphina stepped forward, her crown blazing with the combined psionic might of every connected Zypherian in the galaxy. We're not just defending our territory, we're offering you a choice. Coexistence or mutual annihilation. The Devourer's response came as a wave of contempt that made the station's hull vibrate. You understand nothing. We are not conquerors, we are evolution. The weak are consumed so the strong may transcend. Then prove you're stronger than unity itself, Marcus challenged. Face the combined will of an entire galaxy. As you wish. The transmission cut off as the Devourer fleet accelerated toward the galactic core, their dark ships moving with predatory grace through the void. Across the station, alarms began sounding as the final phase of the network came online. All species reporting ready, Zareth announced. 17 billion sentient minds prepared for linkage. The weapon is armed. Marcus felt Seraphine's hand slip into his as they prepared to activate humanity's last hope. Around them, the station hummed with the combined technologies of every major civilization, a testament to what could be achieved when survival trumped politics. Together? Seraphina asked, her fingers hovering over the activation controls. Together, Marcus confirmed, his own hand joining hers on the interface. They pressed the activation sequence together, and reality exploded. Marcus felt his consciousness expand beyond anything he'd thought possible, his individual identity merging with Seraphine's, with Zareth's, with billions of other minds across the galaxy. He was still himself, but also part of something infinitely larger, a collective awareness that spanned stars and embraced every form of life, from the smallest microbe to the mightiest space whale. Through this vast network, he felt the Devourers' assault begin. Their weapons struck the outer rim worlds, consuming matter and energy with terrifying efficiency. But instead of finding scattered, defenseless civilizations, they encountered something they'd never faced before: unified resistance. Every destroyed world simply transferred its consciousness to the network. Every consumed ship shared its final experiences with the collective. The Devourers weren't just fighting individual species anymore. They were fighting the living spirit of an entire galaxy. Impossible. The Devourer hive mind recoiled as its weapons proved ineffective against an enemy that existed as pure information. Consciousness cannot be consumed if it has no fixed form. Through the network, Marcus felt Seraphine's presence merge more deeply with his own, their individual personalities creating something new, a hybrid consciousness that embodied the best qualities of both species. Around them, similar mergers were occurring as former enemies discovered they shared more than they'd ever imagined. We offer you a choice. The galactic consciousness spoke with 17 billion voices. Join us willingly, or be absorbed as you have absorbed others. But know that we fight not for dominance, but for the right to exist as we choose. The Devourer fleet hesitated, their absolute certainty shaken by an opponent that grew stronger with each assault. For the first time in their existence across 17 galaxies, they faced something that couldn't be consumed, a form of life that thrived on unity rather than domination. What are you? They asked, their mental voice tinged with something that might have been fear. We are what you could become. Marcus replied, his individual consciousness somehow still distinct within the vast collective. Evolution through cooperation rather than consumption. Choose, Seraphina added, her voice harmonizing with his across dimensions of thought. Become part of something greater, or face the consequences of endless hunger. The pause stretched across light years as an entire galaxy held its breath. Then, slowly, tentatively, the first Devourer ship powered down its weapons. Choose. Unity, came the response, ancient and tired. Teach us what you have learned. As the galaxy's newest members joined the collective consciousness, Marcus felt a profound sense of completion. He and Seraphina had traded places not just with each other, but with the entire concept of what leadership meant. Instead of ruling through authority, they discovered how to lead through example, showing that even the most bitter enemies could become family when survival demanded it. In the end, they'd save the galaxy not through weapons or politics, but by proving that unity was the ultimate evolution and that love, in all its forms, was the force that made such unity possible. The trading of places was complete, and the galaxy would never be the same. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.